Good morning, I'm Steve Bowen. We're at PV Bicycle Center this morning. I'm going to talk about an important new bike for this year, which is the Specialized Tarmac SL4. To understand the SL4, we need to talk about the history of the Tarmac. In 2008, I believe, Specialized introduced the Tarmac SL2. That was a revolutionary product at the time. What they did was they take a race bike, very fast, very light, very stiff and efficient, very refined ride. The bike you could ride for hours and hours in comfort, but it would still give you what you needed on a race bike. The next evolution of that was about the time when Specialized started working with some pro teams. So they sponsored some pro teams, and they had those guys help them in the development of the next generation of the Tarmac, which was the SL3. Here I have a cutaway of a Tarmac SL3. So the important things that changed with the SL3 were, most importantly, the construction method. The bike was made in 3 pieces, and for the first time ever, the bottom bracket structure back to the rear dropouts was made in 1 piece. This made this whole rear triangle very rigid. That's where a lot of energy is wasted in bikes. And so by doing that, they could lighten the rest of the bike and also make it more compliant in a vertical plane. That means that it absorbed more road shock, gave a smoother ride for the rider, led to less fatigue without wasting the essential energy, letting the bike flex from side to side. There's some other important innovations. They made a very, very large lower headset bearing, and you can see in here the way that the steer tube tapered. In the past, this piece has always been straight, with no variations in thickness. This allowed them to make the top of the fork crown bigger. Again, another place where a bike flexes. This has to do with handling and control of a bike. So it gave a much more confident handling. The bike would descend quicker with more control. Now, the emphasis in the SL3 was because they were working with the pro riders. The pro riders wanted the bike to be even stiffer than the SL2 had been. So they really worked hard to get the rear triangle of the bike very stiff. Particularly for these sprinters, Tom Boonen was instrumental in that. He kept saying that the bike was too flexy in the rear. Well, Tom Boonen's a guy who could put out 1,000 or 1,200 watts at a sprint. That's a great amount of power and would flex most bikes. So when the SL3 came out, it met those design goals. It was much more efficient, it was stiffer, it was lighter, but the ride was not quite as refined as the SL2. So this was great for the pros. The serious recreational riders, I think, might have been a little disappointed ultimately in the Tarmac SL3. The ride was just not quite as smooth, quite as refined, quite as gentle over a long period of time. The Specialized development cycle is much tighter than just about any other bike company. They take their flagship products and pretty much thoroughly redesign them every 2 years. That's really unheard of in the industry, and it takes a lot of money, a lot of commitment, a lot of effort to do that. And Specialized makes less money because they could certainly run their product cycles for 3 years, probably sell as many bikes, and it wouldn't cost them as much money, but they're driven not by ultimate profit, but by trying to make the best bike possible. And that's the stated design goal of Mike Senior, the founder. He really passionately believes that they should take the knowledge that they're gaining all the time, and they're spending a lot of time and money on research and development, athlete testing, dealer input, thousands of hours of riding, and they're putting that into their bikes. And they don't want to wait once they have enough material to really redesign a bike. They don't want to wait another year for it. They want to get it out in the marketplace. So here we have the new 2012 Tarmac SL4. The SL4 actually is in 2 models. This is the Tarmac Pro, and there's also an S-Works Tarmac SL4. Slight differences in carbon layup, the amount of handwork, and the components and wheels that come on the bike. This is the Tarmac Pro. So what are the differences here? Well, they've actually taken and made now the headset bearings a tiny bit smaller. They made the head tube stiffer, by making the top tube very large as it gets toward the head tube. So they retain the stiffness that they previously had by a larger bearing down here at the bottom. 1.5 inches before, now we're down to 1 3/8. Still larger than it used to be. But this gives the bike a little more compliance, a little more refined ride without sacrificing that predictability of handling. Other important cosmetic change in this bike is that we now have internal cable routing. So if you look at the SL3, the cables are routed on the outside of the bike underneath. Now we have internal cable routing for both the brake and the shifters. Cleaner design, less dirt corrosion can get into the cable housings. Just a nicer overall looking bike, slicker, a little more aerodynamic, and they've also provided the possibility for running internal cables for the electronic Shimano shifting. Right now there's Di2 Dura-Ace available, that's electronic Dura-Ace, and later this year or early next year we'll have Ultegra electronic shifting. So other bike companies have already made provisions for internal cable runs for electronic wiring. Now Specialized has it in their bikes. Some other changes for the 2012 Tarmac SL4, completely redesigned wheel set, Roval branded, which is Specialized, made by DT Swiss. Extremely light wheels, very good bearings and hubs, ultra thin spokes, flat bladed for aerodynamics, very lightweight and also very sturdy. Lifetime warranty on the wheels. We've got carbon crankset on this bike, Specialized carbon crankset with their proprietary use of oversized bottom bracket, a little bit larger actually than the new BB30 standard. It gives again a very stiff interface between the cranks, large bearings, large surface area. Both of the Tarmac Pro SL4 and the S-Works Tarmac SL4 are available with either Shimano components. In the case of the Pro, it's a mix of Dura-Ace and Ultegra, or SRAM components. This is a SL4 Pro with SRAM. It's got red shifters and rear derailleur, Specialized crankset as we said before. It's got forced brakes and front derailleur. Lightweight, cost effective, shifts very well. For those more comfortable with traditional Shimano, you get a mix of Dura-Ace and Ultegra on the Pro model, all Dura-Ace on the S-Works model. S-Works also available with electronic Di2. Later this year you'll be able to buy the Tarmac Pro with the Ultegra electronic shifting at actually the same price as this bike.